Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn at pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Okie doke. I think we're good to go. How you doing? Welcome to a Thursday edition of the Lynn Cullen Show. It'd be the 14th of September, and no paucity of news, that's for sure. There's always plenty of it. I'm going to start maybe where you're not expecting me to start, but, you got to take a break from some of this stuff. Just count to 10 and inhale deeply. I want to start with the obit of the day, okay? And it's the Cassini spacecraft, which died in the service of its country at 8:55 this morning. Threw itself, suicide mission, threw itself into the atmosphere of Saturn and vaporized. This little spacecraft has done so much. All those incredible pictures of Saturn that you have been able to see over all of a sudden, close-ups of those rings. Well, the photographer was Cassini. And I realized that by saying it died in service to its country, that's not correct. It died in service, to the world, because this space probe was the work of not just NASA, but also the European Space Agency, the Italian Space Agency. This was an international effort, and it began 20 years ago. That little thing's been plugging along for 20 years, gathering all kinds of data, discovering things we didn't know were out there, various moons. And there's something, it's just something so, to me, I know I'm anthropomorphizing a thing, but still, I can't help it. For that little thing to be out there all by itself in that darkness for so long, traveling for, I don't know how long it had to travel, how many years it took to get to Saturn and then to start its orbit. But it was 20 years ago that it started, and it died today. And I just want to say it saddened me. It has, in its life, transmitted all kinds of, just breathtaking pictures of our solar system, and also has taken, I don't know, I'm not sure how much it was equipped to do atmospheric stuff, but I think it was. Also, when it was first launched, there was another craft attached to it called the Huygens. So it was the Cassini-Huygens spacecraft. And years ago, the Huygens this is amazing that people can figure out how to do this. Huygens detached from Cassini and headed for Saturn's largest moon, Titan, and landed on Titan. So the Huygens part of Cassini-Huygens is sitting on the moon, that moon, the first spacecraft to land on any moon other than our own that we're aware of. And one of the things Cassini also discovered was it showed frozen lakes and rivers and water, obviously, snow-like plumes jetting up miles from the surface of of another one of Saturn's moons. Saturn has something like, we're aware now of something like 92 or something, 69 moons, but they figure that's not the end of it. So I just want to say, thanks, Cassini, mostly from my, unscientific standpoint. Thanks for those pictures, man. There are 2 planets in our solar system that are truly beautiful. The others just look like hunks of rock to me, but there are 2 that are beauties. And Saturn is definitely one, and we're the other. We're the blue one. So, thank you, dear. Amazing. Amazing. If I were like one of the scientists that created it, here I am feeling sad and grieving. I can't imagine. It'd be their baby. It'd be like losing a baby. Wow. All right. You heard about the blob in the sewer system in London? Have you? What do you mean you haven't? It's a great story, getting short shrift because of our obsession with certain hurricanes and the blowhard in the White House. But no, London has the most disgusting thing, clogging up its entire sewer system. They figure it weighs about 140 tons, and listen to what it's made up of. Fat, diapers, disposable wipes, condoms, and tampons. And it has accreted into a ball of such mass that it is 1/6 of a mile wide and is hardened. It's like concrete. One of the poor souls who works for the sewer system in London has encountered it face to face, and he said, "Man, it's overwhelming. The stench of it is overwhelming, let alone just the sight of it." So, by the way, you guys that use those disposable wipes, stop flushing them down into the sewer systems. They're not able to handle it. New York City, I know, has spent unbelievable amounts of money, millions, trying to deal with backups caused by disposable wipes. My God. Americans and their very tender little assholes, I guess. People used to, wipe themselves with newspaper. Come on, guys. Come on. Or let's enter the 21st century and start using what the Japanese are so far ahead of us in terms of toilets. I didn't intend to talk about toilets, but I will. Any of you ever had the wondrous experience of the Toto self-cleaning kind of experience there? I was so blown away by it. I have one. And when I have to use a regular bathroom, you guys do without thinking, I feel really put upon. I feel like, God, when are these people going to wake up and realize you don't have to do it like this? I sometimes will, really go through hell, pain, just to get back home to my Toto. So, the Toto, cleans you yourself. You don't have to. It sends it uses water. It's just wonderful. You are the cleanest human in the universe with it. It can clean you if you're a woman, front, back, and in between. And then it can blow hot air to just dry you off. But I mean, otherwise, you use almost no paper, right? And you're cleaner. It is so much more sanitary. Why don't we do that? I think once you do it, you never go back. Believe me, I can tell you, it's the truth. All right, I didn't mean to talk about this. However, listen to this. So they are now going to have to literally send people into the London sewer and they're going to have to break this thing up by hand. They're going to have to can you imagine? I don't know what you're doing at work today, but you can thank your lucky stars. You ain't having to do that. There's a 8-member team that's going in with powered jet hoses and hand tools. It's expected to take weeks working 24/7 to break this blob of fat condoms, tampons, and disposable wipes. Oh! So, a word to the wise, stop flushing that stuff if you do. Stop it. Especially for, London's sewer system was built in the 18th century, I think. Parts of it, and that are still being used, sort of like, our antiquated one. They're not set up to handle this crap that we send into it. They're made to handle crap, but they're not made to handle all this other crap. Okay, I'll stop. Oh no, one more thing. The Museum of London has said that it hoped, before it was totally destroyed, to acquire a cross-section of the blob for its permanent collection. Well, sure. Think about it. Here's the director of the museum said, "It is important for the Museum of London to display genuine curiosities from past and present." And so there you have it. The London blob. I've been sort of following it for a little while, and apparently now they're going in and going to take it down. Charlie, can I just have my audio up in my ear? Do you know how to do that? Thank you. I don't know. But you can try. And Charlie, can I tell people that I'm going to try to stay here?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what's happening, guys. We cut our ties to... Yeah? Yeah. We cut our ties to Trib Live. That didn't last long. Unlike Cassini, we never got off the ground. But so I'm here. At least it looks like we're just going to try to make this work and try to get a phone system in here. Okay? I mean, we're more comfortable here. And that's that. There were just too many unknowns and things that we weren't thrilled about with the other thing. So.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Welcome back. Man, the places I've been. Yeah. Okay. What am I doing here? Oh, for God's sake, excuse me. I just fell for some spam. It's not like me. Oh. Okay, I'm still avoiding Trump for a sec, if you don't mind. I'm avoiding Trump and Florida, who are now in, together as a story. He's there, I'm sure, being empathetic and lending a hand. I'll still never, ever, ever get over the sight of him thinking he was helping by load boxes, by giving that driver of the truck a box through his window when he was supposed to be filling his flatbed. Unbelievable. There was a story in the New York Times today that I found so compelling that I wanted to share it with you, although there are questions I have about it. I'm a little angry at the reporter for not making certain things clear to me. But it's a story that, again, like so many stories, it just sort of, there's a lot of cowardice in this world. I don't like cowards. I really don't. It's not that I'm possessed of a ton of courage or anything. I'm always stunned by how many people have no pluck. It just seems like most people, live life with their heads down, sort of in a defensive crouch. You go along, you get along, don't want to be sticking out in front of the group, behind the group, want to be in the group. And that's, I don't know, it's just alien to my kind of temperament. As again, I say, it's not that I'm a courageous. I just don't, I'm stunned at how craven we are. In every way. I'm not talking about physical courage. I'm talking about courage of conviction. I'm talking about the ability to stand up and disagree with the current wisdom. It's very hard to do, especially in these days when, if you dare go against whatever the current catechism is on your team or wherever you are, you're just eviscerated. So you can see why people might want to avoid evisceration. I just want to tell you about a woman, Michelle Jones, her name is. I don't know if you've heard about her. She got out of prison just last month. She has spent most of her life in prison. She's 45 years old now. She went in when she was 20, I forget exactly, and she was in for murder. And not just murder, but murder of her own child, 4-year-old boy. So she did her time, and she got let out. And while she was in there, this woman who was impregnated non-consensually when she was 14 years old, and subject to such abuse as a child. You don't even want to think about it. And while she was in prison, she did what quite a few people do while they're there, and we never seem to acknowledge it. She bettered herself. She didn't just sit there and say, my life is gone, wasted. She resolved to live a good life. She resolved to make up for her criminal beginnings. And she ended up getting a degree, a bachelor's degree. Then she got a master's degree. And then she went for a PhD. All of this in history, American history. And she, while in jail, developed a reputation as this really awesome historian. so that she was able to present her work through teleconference to gatherings of historians, and became known among certain historians. Prisoner number 970554. She also managed to write historical plays, one of which is set to open at an Indianapolis theater in December. She wrote several dance compositions. She's obviously a brilliant woman who used her time to educate herself. She never had any access to the internet. The library there at the prison had generally romance novels. She was in a woman's prison, had romance novels. But she ended up getting a team of inmates together, and they poured through tons of documents that she was able to get from the Indiana State Archives to produce a research project that shed light on their prison system going back to God knows where. Anyway, it became something that other historians said, my God, and working without the tools that any historian now considers a must. So when she knew she was, her time was about up, she applied to PhD programs around the country. She applied to Berkeley, she applied to Michigan, she applied to NYU, she applied to Harvard. And she got in. Harvard invited her to, she was one of 18 people selected from hundreds of applicants to their PhD doctoral program in history. But when Harvard's new semester started this year, I guess this month or last month, she was not there. Because some of the folks at Harvard got cold feet about having a child murderer in their program. They raised concerns that she had played down the extent of her crime in her application process, and before long, I would say the cowards won. They won because they were fearful that it would cause a backlash among conservative news outlets who got hold of it. Isn't that fascinating? That these conservative news outlets, that vast right-wing conspiracy, media conspiracy that Hillary had talked about decades ago, that they are so powerful that a powerful institution like Harvard quakes at the prospect of being raked over the coals by these guys because they let in this child killer to their PhD program. They were also worried about alumni and students and people who had been rejected from the program, the hundreds that didn't make the program, saying, "You took a murderer over me?" So they backed away. And she had a lot of strong support from the Harvard History Department, so there's now a war going on in the Harvard History Department. And one of the people, the Harvard historians who had backed her, said this, and this is a question that I come back to a lot. She says, the case throws into relief the question of how much do we really believe in the possibility of human redemption? And I think we don't. As a culture, as a society, we believe in punishing people until the day they die. So we convict you, you serve your time, you're let out, and then we just keep hammering you. We refuse to give you employment. We refuse to allow you full citizenship. It's bizarre, I think. Either you believe that somebody pays a price and then can get on with their life, or you don't. And I don't think most Americans do think there's any redemption. I'm going to spare you her sad story. I'll give you a little. She got pregnant at 14 after non-consensual sex with a high school student. Her mother responded by beating her in the stomach with a board. She was sentenced to 50 years, by the way. Was released after 20. She served 20 based on her exemplary behavior and her educational attainment. The woman who prosecuted her is now writing a book about the case. And she says, look, as a mother, I thought, and I knew it was an awful crime. But what Harvard did, says the prosecutor, is highly inappropriate. I'm the prosecutor, not them. Michelle Jones served her time, and she served a long time. She served what she deserved. A sentence is a sentence. So some of the folks at Harvard are now saying, well, we were just sort of really sparing her. Because it's one thing to be the best incarcerated murderer academically. It's another thing to come to Harvard and be able to succeed in this pressure cooker. And here is one of the professors there who didn't want her. One of our considerations was if this candidate is admitted to Harvard, where everyone is an elite among elites, the adjustment for her would be too much. Ugh. Vile. Just vile. All right, so here's what she says. I knew that I'd come from this very dark place. I knew and know I'm abhorrent to society. But for 20 years, I've tried to do right. Because I didn't believe my past made me somehow cosmically uneducatable forever. The University of California at Berkeley actually went after her. A lot of universities actively sought her out. So anyway, Harvard has now cravenly run, and she decided to go to NYU. She arrived in Manhattan just weeks ago, straight from prison. She had never used a smartphone. I mean, think of all the things in 20 years. If this is a woman who never saw the internet, and now she's at NYU in a PhD program. And when she showed up, she was wearing her prison-issue glasses and carrying boxes full of her jailhouse research. She said this, people don't survive 20 years of incarceration with any kind of grace unless they have the discipline to somehow move forward in that chaotic place. Forget Harvard. I've already graduated from the toughest school there is. She sounds like quite a woman. A tough cookie, now 45 years old and a PhD student at NYU. I, for one, wish her well. Denise says, regarding Cassini, if you need a replacement for Cassini, I just listened to a fascinating podcast from Radiolab with Anne, I don't know how to pronounce it, Carl Sagan's widow and collaborator, on the Voyager 1 spacecraft. It left our solar system in 2012 and is now sending information back on interstellar space. They expect it'll do so for about 10 more years. Yeah, these things, I mean, the engineering, it's just, they're marvels. Man, they're smart, and then they're smart. I mean, the people who can do this kind of thing, unbelievable. So did anybody hear what Nancy and Chuck and Don had for dinner last night? I don't know. Probably burnt steak and ketchup. That's what he likes. Anyway, it's funny because, the two Democratic leaders came out and said, we got a deal. You dreamers, you're going to stay. We're going to protect you. And Trump started furiously tweeting early this morning, saying, well, with Trump, you don't know. But I find it fascinating that he has decided to do an end run around the Republicans. I do find that fascinating. And actually, by doing so, he might finally do the thing that'll make Republicans want to get rid of him. More egregious than his racist remarks, more egregious than all the crapola he has done. It turns out the thing that might finally make the Republicans say, we got to impeach this guy, is the absolutely unforgivable crime of working with a Democrat. I think that might be it. So we'll see what actually comes out of that. But if I were a dreamer, I would take a great deal of hope in the fact that you do have the president. You had Ryan yesterday, the speaker, come out and say deporting these kids is nuts and, self-defeating. I don't know. So we've often said that Trump's base will hang with him no matter what he does. He can murder people. He can eviscerate a puppy on live television. It doesn't matter. They love him. I'm wondering if he starts being nice to Nancy Pelosi. Would that not be something they couldn't tolerate? I have a feeling that, I don't know. So you have the more, xenophobic folks in his base really freaking out today. I mean, Twitter's blowing up, as they say. Oh, wait, I want to get back to Harvard for just a minute, because I hate it. I have this visceral revulsion to Harvard and everything about it. That one quote from we are the elite of the elite. I just... So, the Kennedy School there is a Kennedy School for the Institute of Politics at the Harvard Kennedy School. And every year, that part of Harvard creates a a list and invites certain people who will forever on their resumes note that they were fellows at Harvard. Visiting fellow. And the list of visiting fellows at Harvard this year made me want to scream. Sean Spicer. Corey Lewandowski. Chelsea Manning. Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough, they come together. Jason Chaffetz. He's now contributing on Fox. He's the former congressman, right? And I'm looking at this, and all I'm seeing is essentially the same people that you see paraded out in front of you on CNN and Fox and MSNBC, and it's those yapping, talking heads. What? Those aren't scholars. So Harvard, which pretends to be so elite, has Corey Lewandowski as a visiting lecturer? God. Here's what they say. Bringing divergent voices like these was the point of the program founded in 1966. I bet if we look back at the list of who was invited in 66, 67, all the way into the 80s, it wouldn't have the likes of these people. Would not. Harvard goes on to say, broadening the range and depth of opportunity for students to hear from and engage with experts, leaders, and policy shapers is a cornerstone of the Institute. Well, I got to tell you, I mean, your students can listen to any one of these people, as can I and you and the rest of us, because they're forever getting airtime, right? I wouldn't want to hear from any of them. I know what they have to say. It's like, I can't believe, like, when Robert Morris brings in these talkers that they bring in. Like this year, they're bringing in Newt Gingrich. I would leave the comfort of my home and travel to downtown to hear that son of a bitch who helped destroy our political discourse. It says that Chelsea Manning is there to address lesbian, gay, and transgender issues. Well, I'm sorry. I think there's a lot of better people than Chelsea Manning to do that, who in fact are academic in nature and personal, who have a personal relationship to it. But see, Chelsea, they're going for these, marquee names in our repulsive reality TV culture. Harvard, where the elite meet. Yeah, right. Sickening. Oh, dear, what we got. Are you like me and you literally cannot tolerate this press secretary we got now? Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Oh my God. What a vile human being. What a vile human being. She's actually, for a front person for that administration, she's actually perfect. She represents beautifully everything about them. All right. And little things I have here. Where am I? What time is it? Oh, God. Okay.
20 minutes.
Huh?
20 minutes.
20 minutes? Okay. So people are starting to, there I did it, so. People are starting to talk about the fact that our two parties, that'd be Democrat and Republican, seemingly falling apart. Both have civil wars going on. They do. And it has always been the case that a third party in this country ain't ever going to happen. Well, parties in America's history have died, and parties have split, and new parties have arisen. And it could well be that we're heading into something like that, because if you took all the disaffected Republicans and Democrats and then added in the independents, I think you could have a pretty formidable new party. I don't know. But some people are suggesting that Donald Trump, by virtue of really not having any political principles at all, is showing that the two parties are not what they were. And whether he intends it or not, he might be opening a path to a new party. Michael Beschloss, the historian, presidential historian, said, I think that the parties are so ripe for a split that I've been startled that this hasn't happened yet. So hang on to your hats. I mean, I really think, the people in control of both parties will have all the power. They have the institutional power, and they would fight mightily. But I think it's conceivable that we are seeing some kind of major realignment, not necessarily for the better. I don't have a clue. People, here's another formerly Democratic strategist, Pat Cadell. He says people in Washington, in the political establishment, who think we'll get rid of Trump and then go back to normal, are making a terrible miscalculation. That's simply not going to happen. And he says a total breakup of the Republican Party is just a matter of time. That of the two parties, it is the one most nearing its demise. Bill Kristol, who I'm not inclined to repeat, but he's such an anti-Trumpian, he sometimes says things now that I find compelling and or right on. And there again shows what Trump has done. He's brought a lot of strange bedfellows together, truly. And that, in its way, is a realignment. So Bill Kristol says, I think people underestimate the extent to which the Republican Party could be in full-blown civil war by March or April of next year. Could be. So, I don't know. It's just something to think about. You have all these moderate, there aren't any left. There are few left. But the few that are left are leaving, like Pennsylvania's Charlie Dent. You might not have a clue who that is, but it's a congressman from Pennsylvania who's a Republican and who has generally been seen in that crowd as a flaming liberal, I guess, or at least somebody who doesn't sign on to the Trumpian agenda. And he's leaving. Obviously, listen, they're leaving because they can't take it. They just can't stand it anymore. So if the Republicans are simply this party of the do-nothing party, the party of obdurate no to anything, a party of destruction, not construction, a party that serves unabashedly the interests of the wealthy. I don't think that can keep going. I just don't. I don't know. We'll see. But that Donald Trump could be like one of the sort of progenitors of this kind of a change would be incredible. So I want to tell you about the metamorphosis. Did I say so again? Somebody shoot me. Do you know, Charlie, that tweets now start with so? Tweets.
So I've seen that.
Yeah, really. Tweets start with so. Every one of these talking heads on TV cannot start a sentence without so.
Yeah, where did it come from? Do you have an idea where it came? I have no idea. It just kind of showed up in the regular
It did.
daily vernacular. And
I wonder if people can figure that. Well, words do. I mean, this.
Yeah.
I have a friend who writes a blog, and she was going after the destruction of certain words. I mean, how words and their meanings are just destroyed, like the word iconic or awesome, right? Those do they mean anything anymore?
No.
Or what was the one that she? Oh, that she really hates, and I do too. Curate. Have you noticed that everything is curated now?
Most of our colleagues at other publications or online publications especially, they're all curators. They're not reporters anymore. They're curators.
Curators? What the
Which means the reporters, we do the stories and then they curate, sending it out to other people. That's what apparently a curator
I mean, but a
is.
curator, my sense of a curator, it was like somebody, generally, it was used for people who work in an art museum, right? Would curate an exhibit, which is to say they chose what art would be in it. So anybody making any decision now about anything is curating?
Right. I guess if you decide what tweet you're going to retweet, you're curating your Twitter.
Ah, Jesus Christ.
But there are a lot of these. I mean, the whole thing of using other people's content. I can't think of the word. But that's what there are ads everywhere for, like reporters / curators, and those are basically people who read other people's stuff and then send it out on their own website.
Oh, I thought those were aggregators.
Well, aggregation. Well, that's the thing. When you hear the word aggregate, because everyone says, there's always advice that says, we should aggregate more and blah blah blah, and an aggregate basically means, in my opinion, stealing other people's stuff and putting
right,
it on, so you
exactly.
can have the almighty web hit, but. Curators apparently decide what's really, really important.
Oh.
And then they send it out to the masses.
I see.
All right.
God, there's so much bullshit flying around these days.
Yeah.
Man. So, anyway, that same friend is working on a thing on so, and she sent me part of it, and it was already brilliant, but I mean, for a little two-letter word, it can be a lot of things. And she points that out. It can be a conjunction. It can be an adverb. It can be an adjective. It does do a lot of double, triple, quadruple duty.
People's language skills are so stupid. See what I did there?
Yes, so stupid. I did. So, yeah, you were using it as an adjective.
Adjective, yes.
But now the way it's being used is simply as this weight. It's like clearing your throat. It's like the beginning. Before you can start, you have to say, so, as if you're continuing a conversation, which makes, I don't get it. And it is fascinating how quickly people pick up these things, and then we all start saying it, and we don't even know we're saying it.
And everybody has the so friend who can't start any kind of right. Yeah. I noticed it a few years ago. Former employee used it quite a bit, and I mean, couldn't start a sentence without it.
Well, there were some people in here the other day, and they were having a meeting, and I was sort of couldn't help but hear every other word. So this, so that, so that. So it'll pass. I mean, I think these things.
Yeah, they're cyclical.
Yeah, but Jesus Christ. I'm doing my best to make everybody self-conscious about it so that at least, now that's a perfectly reasonable way, so that at least we can maybe start stopping. Mike in D.C. writes, the reason Harvard and others are choosing Chelsea Manning and Newt as experts is because in today's culture, identity is expertise. Celebrity is expertise. I mean, experts used to be people who knew the subject matter. Now it's people who are known for knowing, or known. You have to be a celebrity. It was something personal. My wonderful dad of blessed memory put together a peace and justice, founded a peace and justice center at St. Norbert College in outside of Green Bay. And as part of what that thing does, they bring in speakers. And when my dad first started it, he wanted to get some attention. So the speakers that initially came to this Norman Miller lecture series were, mind-blowing. Arthur Schlesinger, Elie Wiesel, Michael Beschloss, all these, sort of big names, Morris Dees. And, we had to pay them. Those guys get big bucks. They like to be flown in, treated real nice. And at some point, a new president at the school said, we could bring in, instead of this one wow lecture a year, we could have 3 or 4 really compelling stuff of people who aren't celebrities, who in fact are knowledgeable as heck. And I gotta tell you, since they started doing that, the lectures, because I've gone in for some, are just mind-blowing and incredibly well attended. The students are getting such wonderful kind of, much better than if Chelsea Manning came. You know what I mean? It's not celebrity culture. It's really looking at people who are, without the advantage of celebrity, doing the hard work of maybe reconciliation, of moving things forward. It's mind-blowing.
If you're going to bring Chelsea Manning in, I mean, she has a story. She has an actual story to tell that, she's basically the Edward Snowden who got caught. I mean, there's value in using Chelsea Manning, but, just because...
they're doing her, though, for transgender.
Right, she is a trans woman. That's what they hinge it on. But you've got someone who leaked, government who leaked documents and government information, and that's why you should be using her.
Exactly. The fact that they're bringing her in for the transgender stuff is amazing to me. I agree. If you brought her in as a person who, like you'd bring in Edward Snowden, or friggin' Assange, who she worked with, right?
Right.
That's who she leaked her stuff. Yes. She put WikiLeaks on the map.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, great point, Mike. Yeah. So Harvard too has fallen victim to the crass culture. So for Harvard to call itself elite, we're the elite of the elite, and then this is their idea. They fall for now our cultural definition of what expertise is. Mike writes, it's the same issue that only people in a minority group can speak on that topic as an expert. It's ironic that a university is signing on to this belief, considering how they make their money by granting degrees. Yeah. Oh, Mike, though, I don't know. We're just pretty... Susie says the word I can't stand is super. Really? Do we hear that a lot? Everything is super good, super cool. Super. We all have our, yeah. All of those grating words. So you know what? Speaking of celebrity, I am now watching something that a lot of you watched a few years ago, and that is The People versus OJ Simpson. Did you ever see that? I thought, what do I want to see that for? I lived through it. Jeez, that's the last thing I want to see. This is a 10-episode docudrama. And I have to say, I am mesmerized. I'm 4 episodes in. Mesmerized. And it's reminding me of what that trial did to our culture. From the car chase to OJ was a celebrity. And you get the celebrity culture you see how that begins to grow greater and greater. OJ is also emblematic of our racial divide, how Black Americans refuse to believe he was guilty because their history with the justice system was wholly alien to the white folks. It's fascinating. And the other thing, well, I don't know. I'm just blown away by it. Even a little Kim Kardashian is in this. Oh. Because her father was OJ's best friend. Mm-hmm. And her father was OJ's best friend. OJ was her godfather. And when this all happened, and his wife, Kim's mother, Chris, right?
Yes.
They were divorced at the time, and she had already taken up with Bruce Jenner. And when you realize, so the little Kardashian kids they're just kids in it. Every once in a while they're in a scene, but you think of what a bizarre reality those kids grew up with. I mean, really. Right in the center of whatever media storm was happening, was just beginning to happen. I find this I just find it mind-blowing. And I completely forgot that Alan Dershowitz, Harvard, he's the one who figured out how to get OJ off, pretty much. He was brought in, and he said, I think here's what you do, because obviously the everything in the evidence is so damning, it's ridiculous. I mean, you got blood leading from the scene all the way into his bedroom. I mean, you got him fleeing. You've got so much stuff here, it's a joke. And that they got him off is unbelievable. Fascinating. If you never watched it, I am telling you, there's so much stuff on, there's so much crap on. That is really worth it. There's a reason it won 1 million Emmy Awards. There's a reason. Really extraordinarily well done. Okay, I think that's it. And I never got to this thing. I was going to tell you about this metamorphosis of a federal judge, but I guess that can wait for another time. So thanks. And again, we're going to really try mightily to have you back on the phone next week. But as we've all learned, shit happens. Toodaloo.
Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.